Have you ever pondered what adorned Christmas tables before contemporary customs became established? Before grocery stores and ready-made foods revolutionized our holiday celebrations, Americans commemorated with dishes that conveyed tales of ancestry and household. Today, we're discovering 25 overlooked Christmas foods that once characterized the season's most significant feast. 1. Roast goose. Let's begin with roast goose. Long before turkey claimed its position as the holiday focal point, roast goose dominated American Christmas tables. This succulent, flavorful bird was the highlight of colonial festivities and maintained its popularity well into the early 1900s. Families would economize throughout the entire year to purchase a plump goose, frequently raising their own or buying from neighborhood farmers. The entire family looked forward to this annual tradition, marking their calendars and counting down the months. The anticipation itself became part of the holiday magic. The preparation was truly an art form that demanded skill and patience. The bird needed meticulous basting and pricking to render the substantial fat, which was carefully collected and preserved for cooking throughout the winter months. That rendered goose fat was considered liquid gold in the kitchen, highly valued for roasting potatoes and vegetables. Every drop was precious, and nothing went to waste. The meat itself provided a richer, more intricate flavor than turkey, with crispy skin that crackled satisfyingly under the carving knife. The dark, juicy meat had a depth that turkey simply couldn't match. Each slice revealed layers of flavor that had developed during the slow roasting process. German and Eastern European immigrants particularly treasured this tradition, bringing their family recipes from the old country. They passed down techniques through generations, each family guarding their special methods for achieving the perfect crisp skin and tender meat. By the 1920s, turkey's lower cost and gentler flavor started replacing goose on American tables. The economic pressures of the era made the more affordable turkey increasingly attractive. Today, locating a Christmas goose requires special ordering from specialty butchers, and few Americans understand the delight of this customary feast that once united families around the holiday table. 2. Oyster stew. Christmas Eve signified oyster stew in countless American households, particularly along the coastlines. This creamy, uncomplicated dish merged fresh oysters with milk or cream, butter, and merely a hint of seasoning. The beauty lay in its simplicity, yet the flavors were extraordinary. The tradition traces back to Irish Catholic immigrants who required a meatless meal for Christmas Eve fasting. What began as religious observance transformed into a cherished family tradition that transcended denominational boundaries. Families would assemble around steaming bowls, floating oyster crackers on top, while church bells chimed in the distance, creating a perfect symphony of sound and aroma. In the Chesapeake Bay region, every family possessed their secret variation. Some incorporated celery for crunch, others a splash of Worcestershire for depth. The finest versions utilized oysters so fresh they still carried the briny essence of the sea. You could taste the ocean in every spoonful, a reminder of the bounty just beyond the shore. Children acquired a taste for that initial experience of the ocean mingled with warm cream, often starting with small portions and gradually growing to love this sophisticated dish. It became a rite of passage, marking their transition into appreciating more refined flavors. By the 1960s, worries about pollution and the decline of oyster populations made fresh oysters increasingly difficult to locate and more costly. The environmental changes affected not just availability, but quality. Canned versions couldn't replicate the magic or capture that fresh from the bay experience. Now, this Christmas Eve comfort food endures primarily in memory and a few traditional households along the eastern seaboard who refuse to let this beautiful tradition die. 3. Mince pie with meat. Today's mincemeat pie contains no meat whatsoever, but the original version reveals a completely different story rooted in practical necessity. Traditional mince pies combined beef or mutton with suet, dried fruits, spices, and brandy in a mixture that aged for weeks, developing complex flavors. This wasn't dessert in the modern sense. It was a clever method to preserve meat through harsh winter months when fresh protein was scarce. Colonial housewives would prepare enormous batches in November, packing the mixture into crocks and feeding it brandy weekly. The ritual of tending these crocks became part of the holiday preparation, with each addition of spirits marking another week closer to Christmas. The combination sounds peculiar now, but the savory-sweet blend created intricate flavors that enhanced with age, becoming more complex and nuanced over time. Each family protected their recipe jealously, adjusting the balance of meat, fruit, and spices according to taste and tradition. Some added apple for tartness, others preferred more citrus peel for brightness. Regional variations were endless, each reflecting local ingredients and cultural influences. The pies themselves were frequently small, individual-sized treats called Christmas pies, perfect for sharing with neighbors and guests. Puritans once attempted to prohibit them as excessively indulgent, viewing them as symbols of unnecessary luxury and celebration. The meat gradually vanished from recipes during the early 1900s as refrigeration made preservation less necessary. By 1950, most commercial mincemeat was entirely fruit-based, and the original purpose was forgotten. That original meat pie represented resourcefulness and tradition we've entirely lost, along with a unique flavor profile that can never be truly recreated. Fourth, Indian pudding. This humble dessert sustained New England families through centuries of frigid Christmas seasons, providing both comfort and sustenance. Made from cornmeal, molasses, milk, and warming spices, Indian pudding baked slowly for hours until it transformed into creamy comfort that warmed both body and soul. The name originated from colonists calling corn Indian meal, and the dish merged Native American ingredients with English pudding techniques, creating something uniquely American. It represented the blending of cultures that defined early American cuisine. Every household maintained their version, passed down through generations. Some added raisins or dried cranberries, others preferred it plain to showcase the pure flavors. The secret was patience, allowing it to bake low and slow until the edges caramelized beautifully and the center remained silky smooth. Rushing the process resulted in a grainy, unsatisfying texture. Served warm with heavy cream or hard sauce, it provided both dessert and sustenance during harsh winters when calories meant survival. Church suppers always featured at least one large pan, the spiced aroma filling fellowship halls and drawing people together. The scent alone was enough to make mouths water and stomachs rumble. Indian pudding remained a Christmas staple through the 1940s, especially in rural New England, where old traditions held strong. But as convenience foods arrived and tastes shifted toward lighter, more refined desserts, this colonial comfort food gradually faded. Today, only historic restaurants and dedicated home cooks preserve this piece of American culinary heritage, keeping alive the flavors that sustained our ancestors. 5. Hominy pudding. Southern Christmas tables once displayed hominy pudding as proudly as any turkey or ham, giving it a place of honor among the feast dishes. This creamy dish transformed simple hominy grits into holiday magic with eggs, butter, and milk, elevating humble ingredients to celebration status. Some cooks added cheese for savory richness, others kept it sweet with sugar and vanilla, creating dessert-like versions. The texture was crucial, somewhere between custard and soufflé with tiny corn kernels, providing pleasant substance and visual interest. It bridged the gap between side dish and dessert, equally at home beside roast meats or topped with fruit preserves. The preparation demanded careful attention and skill, slowly cooking the grits until perfectly smooth before gently folding in beaten eggs. Any rushing resulted in lumpy disappointment. Cast iron skillets produced the finest crust, golden and slightly crispy against the creamy interior, creating textural contrast in every bite. This dish embodied Southern resourcefulness, elevating humble ingredients into celebration food worthy of the finest tables. African-American cooks especially perfected hominy pudding, passing down techniques through generations and adding their own innovations. Their expertise transformed simple ingredients into something truly special. By the 1960s, instant foods and evolving tastes pushed this labor-intensive dish aside in favor of quicker preparations. Modern Southern Christmas meals rarely feature this once essential comfort food that connected families to their agricultural roots and Southern heritage. The loss represents not just a recipe, but a connection to the past and the people who perfected it. 6. Blancmange. Elegant Victorian Christmas dinners weren't complete without blancmange, that shimmering molded dessert that adorned the finest tables and impressed the most sophisticated guests. This delicate creation combined milk or cream with sugar and gelatin or cornstarch, often flavored with almonds or rosewater for an exotic touch. The pure white color gave it its French name meaning white food, and its pristine appearance symbolized purity and elegance. Proper ladies prided themselves on perfect blancmange, turned out from elaborate copper molds into shapes of flowers, castles, or Christmas trees. The molds themselves were investments, passed down through families as treasured heirlooms. The texture had to be precisely right, firm enough to hold its intricate shape, but trembling slightly when served, creating an almost magical effect. Some versions layered different flavors or colors for dramatic visual impact. Garnishes included candied violets, fresh berries, or even gold leaf for the extremely wealthy, turning dessert into edible art. Making blancmange required considerable skill and patience, constantly stirring to prevent lumps while achieving that signature smoothness. It couldn't be rushed or left unattended. It represented refinement and European sophistication in American dining rooms, a connection to old-world elegance. The rise of instant puddings and Jell-O in the 1920s made elaborate molded desserts seem old-fashioned and unnecessarily complicated. This once prestigious dessert disappeared except from period dramas and historical cookbooks, though its elegance and sophistication have never been truly matched. 7. Spiced peaches, Victorian and Edwardian. Christmas celebrations featured glistening jars of spiced peaches, their amber syrup fragrant with cloves and cinnamon, creating anticipation long before they were opened. These weren't mere canned fruit, but carefully preserved treasures made when peaches were perfect in late summer, chosen at peak ripeness. Housewives would select only the finest fruit with discerning eyes, briefly blanching to remove skins while keeping them whole and unblemished. The poaching syrup combined vinegar, sugar, and warming spices, with each family adjusting proportions to their taste and regional preferences. Some added brandy for preservation and depth, others preferred pure fruit essence to shine through. The peaches simmered gently until just tender, absorbing the spiced liquid while maintaining their shape and integrity. Packed into glass jars, they aged until Christmas, developing deeper, more complex flavors that improved with time, like fine wine. These jewel-like preserves accompanied roasted meats, their sweet tart spiciness cutting through rich gravies and heavy dishes. They also appeared in crystal dishes as a palate cleanser between courses at formal dinners, refreshing the taste buds. The process required considerable skill and experience, Too much heat and peaches turned to mush, too little, and they wouldn't keep safely through winter. Modern canning methods and year-round fruit availability made such careful preservation seem unnecessary and overly time-consuming. This Christmas tradition largely vanished by the 1960s, taking with it the anticipation of opening those carefully tended jars. 8. Plum pudding. No British-influenced American Christmas was complete without plum pudding, the dark, mysterious dessert that fascinated children. Despite containing no plums at all, this dense, dark dessert packed dried fruits, sweet, breadcrumbs, and enough alcohol to preserve it for months, improving with age like a fine spirit. Families began making their puddings on Stir-Up Sunday in November, with each member taking a turn, stirring clockwise and making a secret wish. The ritual connected every family member to the preparation. The mixture aged in cool pantries, developing complex flavors and dark color as the ingredients melded together. On Christmas Day, the pudding steamed for hours, filling entire homes with spiced aromas that announced the holiday had truly arrived. The presentation was pure theater, brought flaming to the table, doused in brandy and set alight, creating gasps and applause. Inside, families hid silver coins or charms for lucky finders, adding an element of surprise and excitement. The sauce mattered tremendously, too. Hard sauce, brandy butter, or custard, each family had strong preferences passed down through generations. The right sauce could elevate good pudding to spectacular. This wasn't light fare to be eaten carelessly. A small slice satisfied completely, rich with fruit and tradition, heavy with meaning. American families, especially those with British heritage, maintained this custom well into the 20th century, connecting them to ancestral homes across the ocean. But the lengthy preparation and heavy nature couldn't compete with modern convenience desserts and changing tastes. By the 1970s, most plum puddings came from cans, if families served them at all, and the tradition slowly died. Which of these forgotten dishes do you remember from childhood Christmases? 9. Swan pie. The ultimate in Christmas extravagance, swan pie represented wealth and status in 17th and 18th century America like nothing else could. This wasn't just food, but edible architecture. An entire swan, carefully skinned with feathers intact, roasted and reassembled in an enormous pastry shell that required teams of cooks. The preparation took days and multiple skilled cooks working in coordination. First, the swan was delicately skinned in one piece, preserving every feather. The meat was removed and seasoned with exotic spices only the extremely wealthy could afford. Cinnamon, nutmeg, and pepper imported at great expense. The body was reconstructed with forcemeat and other birds, sometimes with ducks or pigeons nested inside, creating layers of different meats. Everything went into an elaborately decorated pastry case, often shaped like the swan itself with intricate details. After extensive baking, the original skin with feathers was carefully draped over the pastry, creating the breathtaking illusion of a living swan gracing the table. Guests would gasp at the spectacle before carving began. Only the wealthiest colonists and early Americans could afford such extravagant display. These pies appeared at gubernatorial feasts and high society Christmas gatherings, setting hosts apart from ordinary citizens. By the early 1800s, democratic ideals and growing practicality ended such ostentatious displays that seemed to mock simpler folk. The last swan pies appeared in historical records around 1820, remembered now only as symbols of colonial excess and inequality. 10. Brawn or head cheese. Before refrigeration, every part of the animal was precious, and Christmas brawn proved this philosophy perfectly. This jellied meat dish used the head of a pig or calf, slowly simmered until the meat fell off the bones and the natural gelatin dissolved into the liquid. The cooking liquid, rich with natural gelatin from bones and connective tissue, bound everything together when cooled into a firm, sliceable loaf. Despite the unappetizing name that makes modern diners squeamish, properly made brawn was genuinely delicious, seasoned with bay leaves, peppercorns, and winter herbs that grew even in cold weather. German and Eastern European immigrants especially treasured this Christmas tradition, often adding vinegar for pleasant tang and longer preservation. The finished product was pressed into decorative molds, creating beautiful patterns when sliced that resembled marble or mosaic. Served cold with sharp mustard and tangy pickles, it provided essential protein during winter months when fresh meat was scarce and expensive. Making brawn was a community effort that brought neighbors together. Families shared the work and the results, strengthening bonds. The process took 2 full days, but yielded enough to last through New Year's and beyond, feeding families economically. Modern squeamishness about organ meats and the easy availability of other proteins killed this practical tradition. By the 1950s, even immigrant communities rarely made traditional brawn, the knowledge fading with each generation. Today's artisanal charcuterie movement occasionally revives it, but it's largely forgotten except among food historians. 11. Hearty meat pies. Hearty meat pies once anchored American Christmas dinners from colonial times through the frontier era, providing sustenance and celebration. These weren't dainty appetizers to nibble, but substantial enclosed pastries filled with beef, pork, or game mixed with hearty root vegetables. The crust provided both plate and preservation, keeping the filling moist and hot for hours. Each region developed distinct variations reflecting local ingredients and cultural heritage. Pennsylvania Dutch added tangy sauerkraut, New Englanders preferred lots of rich gravy, Southerners might include sweet potatoes for sweetness. The pies could be individual-sized for personal servings or massive enough to feed extended families gathering from distant locations. Making them began days ahead, rendering fats for the perfect flaky crust and slow-cooking tough cuts until fork tender. Assembly was an art form, creating decorative vents for steam that formed beautiful patterns and prevented soggy crusts. Experienced bakers could create elaborate designs that identified their work. These pies traveled exceptionally well, important when Christmas visits meant long journeys by sleigh or wagon over rough roads. They could be eaten hot or cold, making them perfect for uncertain schedules and delayed arrivals. The rise of refrigeration and changing food preferences gradually eliminated meat pies from holiday menus over several decades. What once fed entire families through Christmas week became relegated to humble frozen pot pies, lacking character. Their disappearance marked the end of truly portable feast food that combined practicality with celebration. 12. Mutton roast. Before turkey and beef dominated holiday tables, mutton roast claimed pride of place on many American Christmas spreads. This wasn't tender young lamb, but mature sheep, offering robust, assertive flavor that stood up boldly to winter herbs and root vegetables. Properly prepared mutton required knowledge passed down through families. The meat needed marinating in wine or vinegar to tenderize the strong fibers, then slow roasting with frequent basting to prevent drying. The flavor was bold, almost gamey, pairing perfectly with bright mint sauce or sweet red currant jelly. Immigrant communities from Britain, Greece, and the Middle East especially prized Christmas mutton, bringing their traditional preparations to America. The fat rendered beautifully, creating crispy, flavorful edges while keeping the interior moist and succulent. Leftover mutton made excellent shepherd's pie or hash for the week following Christmas, stretching the celebration and providing economical meals. Raising sheep made economic sense on small farms. They provided wool for clothing, milk for cheese, and eventually meat. But as American tastes shifted toward milder flavors and beef became more affordable and available, mutton steadily lost favor. By World War II, even lamb was becoming uncommon on Christmas menus as turkey took over. Today, finding true mutton requires specialty butchers willing to source it, and few Americans have tasted this once central holiday protein. The loss of mutton represents our movement away from stronger, more complex flavors toward bland uniformity. 13. Candied sweet potatoes, original style. Long before marshmallows entered the picture and changed everything, candied sweet potatoes graced Christmas tables in their pure, simple glory. Sliced sweet potatoes were carefully layered in cast-iron skillets with butter, brown sugar, and warming spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, then slowly baked until beautifully caramelized. The edges turned delightfully crispy, while centers became creamy, creating textural contrast in every forkful. Some cooks added orange zest for brightness or a splash of bourbon for depth. Family secrets carefully passed through generations and never shared outside the family. The dish originated in the South, but spread nationwide as sweet potatoes became more widely available through improved transportation. The key was patience and attention. Rushing the process meant uneven cooking and less caramelization, resulting in disappointing results. Proper candied sweet potatoes took hours of slow baking, the sugars slowly transforming into complex caramel notes that couldn't be achieved quickly. This wasn't merely a side dish, but almost dessert, bridging the gap between savory and sweet courses. The 1950s introduction of marshmallow topping changed everything dramatically, making the dish quicker and more visually striking, but completely masking the sweet potato's natural flavors. Original candied sweet potatoes required no additions whatsoever, just time, technique, and quality ingredients. Many modern versions are really marshmallow casserole with sweet potatoes hidden underneath, missing the point entirely and losing the sophisticated caramelization that made the original special. 14. Preserved fruits in brandy. Victorian Christmas pantries held jewel-like jars of fruits suspended in brandy, aging since summer's generous bounty, glowing like treasure. These weren't simple canned goods made quickly, but luxury preserves that improved dramatically with time, becoming more valuable as Christmas approached. Peaches, pears, cherries, and apricots were carefully selected at absolute peak ripeness, then submerged in quality brandy mixed with sugar syrup. The alcohol prevented spoilage, while the fruit slowly absorbed the spirits, creating complex flavors impossible to achieve quickly through any other method. Wealthy families might use expensive cognac, while others made do with local apple brandy that worked nearly as well. The preserving began in June with first cherries, continuing through autumn's last pears, marking the passage of seasons. By Christmas, these brandied fruits had transformed into sophisticated treats worthy of the finest tables. They appeared in crystal compotes at formal dinners, accompanied holiday cakes, or topped ice cream, adding elegance and intoxication. The remaining brandy, now beautifully fruit-flavored, became cordials or sauce bases, ensuring nothing was wasted. Making brandy fruits required significant investment. Quality spirits weren't cheap, and the fruit had to be absolutely perfect. Prohibition dealt the tradition a severe blow, making the spirits illegal and expensive. Even after repeal, few families returned to such elaborate preserving, the knowledge lost. Modern cocktail cherries are pale, sad imitations of these complex preserved fruits that once graced holiday tables. Share your memories of which traditional Christmas foods your family served in the comments. 15. Carp and cod dinners. Christmas Eve, fish dinners brought old-world traditions to American tables with carp and cod taking center stage in elaborate preparations. German and Eastern European families sought live carp, keeping them swimming in bathtubs until Christmas Eve, creating memorable scenes. Children named them as temporary pets before they became dinner, learning difficult lessons about food sources. The preparation varied significantly by heritage and region. Germans favored carp in rich beer sauce. Poles made it with sweet gingerbread gravy. Czechs served it breaded and fried until golden. Cod appeared on Italian and Portuguese tables, salt-preserved fish soaked for days and transformed into feast-worthy dishes like bacalao, brandade, and complex fish stews that represented months of planning and sourcing the best-preserved fish. These weren't simple meals thrown together, but elaborate spreads with multiple fish courses, each more impressive than the last. The tradition stemmed from strict Catholic fasting requirements, but became beloved beyond religious obligation, embraced for the flavors and family connections. Families gathered for hours-long meals, each dish telling stories of homeland traditions carefully adapted to American ingredients. By the 1970s, loosened religious requirements and increasing assimilation reduced these elaborate fish feasts significantly. Frozen fish sticks replaced carefully prepared carp, and many families abandoned the tradition entirely, losing the connection. These Christmas Eve dinners connected immigrants to their heritage through taste and tradition in ways nothing else could replicate. 16. Clams, oreganata. The Italian-American feast of the seven fishes produced many memorable dishes, but clams oreganata held a special place on Christmas Eve tables throughout Italian neighborhoods. Fresh little-neck clams topped with breadcrumbs, garlic, oregano, and olive oil, then baked until golden brown. The aroma alone announced unmistakably that the holidays had arrived. Each family maintained their version, fiercely debated and defended. Some added red pepper flakes for heat, others preferred more lemon for brightness. The key was achieving perfect balance, enough breadcrumbs to create satisfying texture without overwhelming the clam's briny sweetness. Preparing dozens or even hundreds for large family gatherings became a production, with assembly lines of aunts and cousins working together in cramped kitchens. The first batch always disappeared immediately, eaten hot from the oven while preparing the rest. Quality control, they called it. This dish represented Italian-American innovation at its finest, adapting coastal Italian traditions to New World ingredients and abundance. The plentiful fresh clams made what was special occasion food in Italy achievable for working-class families here. But as families dispersed geographically and traditions simplified with each generation, elaborate Christmas Eve seafood feasts became less common and eventually rare. Many modern Italian-American families order pizza on Christmas Eve, losing precious connections to these carefully prepared traditional dishes their grandparents perfected. Clams oreganata survive mainly in restaurants now, removed from their family context. 17. Snowball dessert. Mid-century American ingenuity created the Snowball dessert, turning simple, affordable ingredients into Christmas magic that delighted children and adults alike. The classic version started with round sponge cakes or vanilla ice cream balls covered entirely in freshly grated coconut to resemble glistening snow. Some versions hid delightful surprises inside: chocolate sauce, fruit preserves, or chopped nuts that created excitement. Others built elaborate sculptures, stacking snowballs into complete snowmen with chocolate chip faces and fruit leather scarves. The dessert appeared frequently in women's magazines throughout the 1940s and 50s, each offering creative variations and new ideas. Church cookbooks featured dozens of interpretations using regional ingredients and family preferences. The appeal was highly visual. These desserts photographed beautifully for holiday parties, creating memorable presentations. Making snowballs required planning ahead, but not complex techniques. perfect for home cooks wanting impressive results without professional training. Children especially loved them, both making and eating these winter confections, creating family memories. The rise of more sophisticated desserts and growing concerns about coconut's fat content ended the Snowball era gradually. By the 1970s, they seemed quaint and old-fashioned compared to dramatic chocolate lava cakes and international desserts. Yet nothing quite replaced their whimsical charm and accessibility to average cooks. These simple desserts brought winter magic indoors, creating edible snow when nature didn't cooperate, allowing everyone to build snowmen regardless of climate. 18 Jell-O salad molds. No mid-century Christmas buffet was complete without a shimmering Jell-O salad mold, those architectural marvels of gelatin engineering that amazed guests. These weren't desserts as we understand them, but salads combining lime Jell-O with cottage cheese, crushed pineapple with cherry gelatin, or the infamous perfection salad with cabbage and vegetables suspended in clear aspic. Elaborate copper molds in intricate shapes, wreaths, trees, stars, turned simple ingredients into impressive centerpieces worthy of magazine spreads. The recipes required precise timing and technique, adding ingredients at exactly the right temperature for proper suspension. Too warm and everything sank to the bottom. Too cool and layers wouldn't bond properly. Successful molds announced a hostess's skill and modern kitchen prowess to all who saw them. Colors coordinated carefully with holiday themes. Red and green layers or elegant champagne-colored aspics for sophisticated New Year's celebrations. Women's magazines promoted increasingly complex designs, some requiring multiple molds and careful assembly that took hours. The 1960s represented peak Jell-O salad creativity before the inevitable backlash began against artificial foods. By the 1970s, health consciousness and changing tastes made these gelatin salads seem dated, artificial, and even embarrassing. Today, they're pure nostalgia, appearing mainly in ironic retro spreads and vintage-themed parties, but they represented an era when home cooks enthusiastically embraced food as entertainment and visual spectacle, not just sustenance. 19. Candle salad. Perhaps no vintage Christmas dish sparks more double takes and uncomfortable laughter than candle salad, that peculiar creation from the innocent 1950s. A pineapple ring formed the base, topped with a peeled banana standing upright, crowned with a maraschino cherry flame. Mayonnaise dripped down one side represented melting wax, all arranged carefully on crisp lettuce leaves. Yes, it looked exactly like what you're thinking, but mid-century hostesses served it with completely straight faces at holiday luncheons, genuinely unaware. The recipe appeared in countless community cookbooks and major magazines, often specifically suggested for children's parties without any sense of irony. Some versions added cream cheese instead of mayonnaise for richness. Others used cottage cheese for the base, creating variations on the theme. The presentation was considered key, arranged on festive plates with garnishes of nuts or additional fruit for color. Despite its suggestive appearance, or perhaps because of widespread innocence about it, candle salad became a conversation starter at Christmas gatherings. The combination of flavors was actually pleasant. Sweet fruit with creamy dressing created balance. But changing sensibilities and growing awareness of its unfortunate resemblance killed this innocent salad quickly. By the late 1960s, it vanished from polite tables as people finally noticed. Today, it lives on only in vintage cookbook collections and internet memes, a reminder of more innocent times when this seemed perfectly appropriate. 20. Party loaf. The 1950s party loaf elevated the humble sandwich to architectural heights, creating the ultimate make-ahead Christmas party food that impressed every guest. This wasn't just sandwiches stacked carelessly, but edible sculpture requiring planning and skill. Entire loaves of unsliced bread were hollowed out carefully, filled with layers of different sandwich fillings, creating colorful stripes, then frosted completely with seasoned cream cheese like a cake. Each slice revealed beautiful, colorful stripes: egg salad, ham spread, chicken salad, and olive nut mixture, each distinct. The exterior decorating rivaled wedding cakes in complexity, with elaborately piped cream cheese roses, vegetable garnishes, and festive designs. Making party loaf required careful planning and precious refrigerator space. It needed overnight chilling to set properly and achieve clean slices. The fillings had to complement without competing, carefully balanced. Moist enough to hold together but not soggy, achieving perfect texture throughout. Serving was an event in itself, presenting the decorated loaf whole before slicing to reveal hidden layers, creating gasps of admiration. This dish embodied 1950s entertaining ideals perfectly: impressive appearance, make-ahead convenience, and built-in portion control. Every women's magazine featured variations from simple 3-layer versions to elaborate holiday-themed creations requiring hours. But the rise of more casual entertaining and concerns about mayonnaise-based foods sitting out at room temperature ended the party loaf era. Modern party platters seem boring and uninspired compared to these edible monuments to mid-century creativity and ambition. 21st Snowman Cake. Children of the 1950s and 60s remember vividly the magic of snowman cakes appearing on Christmas tables, creating excitement and wonder. 3 round-layer cakes of decreasing size were carefully stacked to create the body, covered in fluffy 7-minute frosting and pressed with shredded coconut for authentic snowy texture. Decorating became cherished family entertainment and bonding time. Chocolate chips for buttons, fruit leather scarves, pretzel stick arms, and gumdrop features brought personality to each creation. Some ambitious bakers added fondant top hats or mittens, creating elaborate characters. The cake itself was usually simple vanilla or chocolate, letting decorations become the star attraction. Making snowman cakes required genuine engineering skills: dowels for internal support, careful proportions for stability, and steady hands for assembly without collapse. Magazine instructions made it seem easy and achievable, but many wonderfully lopsided snowmen graced holiday tables, leaning precariously. The charm was in imperfection, each snowman as unique as real ones melting outside, capturing individual family personality. These cakes represented accessible holiday magic, achievable by average home bakers without expensive equipment or professional training. Children helped enthusiastically with decorating, creating precious memories beyond just eating cake, learning skills, and spending time together. The trend faded as decorated cakes became readily available in every grocery store at reasonable prices. Why struggle with homemade when professionals could deliver perfection? But store-bought snowmen never captured the personality, love, and quirky charm of those lovingly crafted kitchen creations that families made together. 22. Hot Dr. Pepper. The bizarre 1960s trend of hot Dr. Pepper as a Christmas beverage seems like urban legend or internet hoax, but it was absolutely real and heavily marketed. The company actively promoted heating their soda and serving it with thin lemon slices as a winter warmer, creating entire advertising campaigns. Advertisements showed idealized families gathered around crackling fireplaces, sipping steaming mugs of heated Dr. Pepper with contented smiles. The company provided detailed instructions and even special serving suggestions for holiday parties. The concept sounds absurd to modern taste, but thousands of families actually tried it, following the advertisement's suggestions. Some genuinely enjoyed it, finding the heated spices pleasant and warming. Others found it strange but memorable, a conversation piece. The trend faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only vintage advertisements and confused memories. Today, it's remembered mainly as a curiosity, one of those inexplicable marketing decisions that somehow made sense at the time but seems incomprehensible now. Yet it represents the era's willingness to experiment with food and drink, trying new combinations without fear of failure. That adventurous spirit, for better or worse, gave us both memorable innovations and forgettable fads like hot Dr. Pepper. 23rd, boiled chestnuts in cream sauce. Long before roasted chestnuts became synonymous with street vendors and caroling, boiled chestnuts in cream sauce graced Victorian Christmas tables as an elegant side dish. Fresh chestnuts were carefully scored, boiled until tender, then peeled, a laborious process that often involved the entire family working together around the kitchen table. The peeled chestnuts were then simmered gently in a rich cream sauce, seasoned with butter, a hint of nutmeg, and sometimes a splash of sherry for depth. The result was a luxurious, almost decadent dish that paired beautifully with roasted poultry and game meats. The creamy sauce complemented the chestnuts' sweet, earthy flavor without overwhelming their delicate taste. European immigrants, particularly from France and Italy, brought this tradition to American shores, adapting their recipes to local ingredients and customs. Some families added celery for texture, others preferred pearl onions for sweetness. The dish appeared regularly in high society Christmas dinners throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s. Preparing chestnuts was considered an art form. Knowing exactly when they were tender enough without becoming mushy required experience and attention. The cream sauce had to be silky smooth, thickened just enough to coat each chestnut perfectly without becoming heavy or cloying. By the 1950s, the time-intensive preparation and the growing scarcity of fresh chestnuts made this dish increasingly rare. Canned chestnuts couldn't replicate the fresh flavor and texture, and convenience-minded cooks moved toward simpler side dishes. Today, boiled chestnuts in cream sauce survive only in the most traditional households and upscale restaurants specializing in historical cuisine, a forgotten luxury that once defined Christmas elegance. 24th Syllabub. Christmas Eve and New Year's celebrations in colonial and early American households featured Syllabub, a frothy, intoxicating drink-dessert hybrid that defies modern categorization. This ethereal concoction combined sweet cream or milk with white wine or sherry, sugar, lemon juice, and sometimes brandy, whipped into a cloud-like foam that delighted adults and fascinated children. The traditional preparation was almost ceremonial. Some recipes called for milking the cow directly into the bowl of wine and spirits, creating natural froth from the force of the stream. Urban households achieved similar results through vigorous whisking until the mixture formed soft peaks that held their shape in special Syllabub glasses. The texture was magical, somewhere between whipped cream and mousse, with a boozy kick that made it distinctly adult. The top layer was pure foam, while the bottom held the liquid mixture, creating two different experiences in one glass. Proper Syllabub required patience and strong arms, as the whipping process took considerable time without modern mixers. Regional variations abounded throughout the original colonies. Southern Syllabub tended sweeter with more sugar and nutmeg, while New England versions featured more lemon and less sweetness. Some families made it days ahead, allowing the flavors to meld and develop complexity, while others preferred it freshly whipped. The drink appeared at every significant Christmas gathering, served in delicate glasses at elegant parties or simple cups at family celebrations. By the late 1800s, as temperance movements gained strength and tastes shifted toward less alcoholic beverages, Syllabub began its slow decline. The 1920s prohibition dealt it a fatal blow, and it never recovered even after repeal. Today, Syllabub remains a curiosity found only in historical reenactments and period cookbooks, though its combination of cream and spirits lives on in modern eggnog. 25. Tom and Jerry batter. Cold winter nights before Christmas called for Tom and Jerry, not the cartoon, but a warming cocktail that required advanced preparation and brought families together. The batter, made days or even weeks ahead, combined beaten egg yolks with sugar, spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, and sometimes a touch of vanilla or almond extract until thick and creamy. Separately, egg whites were whipped to stiff peaks and carefully folded into the yolk mixture, creating an airy, custard-like batter that was stored in crocks or jars in the icebox. When guests arrived, shivering from the cold, the host would spoon generous portions of batter into mugs, add hot water or milk, and finish with rum and brandy, creating a frothy, warming drink. The ritual of preparation was as important as the drink itself. Families took pride in their secret batter recipes, with variations passed down through generations. Some added more spices, others preferred extra spirits in the batter itself. The consistency had to be perfect, thick enough to hold the foam, but not so stiff it wouldn't blend smoothly with the hot liquid. Tom and Jerry parties became Christmas traditions in the Midwest and Northeast, with neighbors gathering for caroling, followed by warming drinks. The batter could last weeks when properly stored, making it ideal for entertaining throughout the holiday season. Special Tom and Jerry sets, matching bowl and mugs with the name emblazoned in gold lettering, became popular wedding gifts and family heirlooms. Saloons and taverns kept Tom and Jerry batter on hand throughout winter, ladling it into drinks for cold customers seeking warmth and cheer. The drink's popularity peaked in the 1920s through 1940s, representing sophisticated holiday entertaining and hospitality. But concerns about raw eggs, changing drinking habits, and the decline of formal entertaining gradually pushed Tom and Jerry into obscurity. By the 1970s, few families maintained the tradition, and today it survives only in scattered pockets. A few old-school bars in Wisconsin and Michigan, some dedicated home bartenders, and collectors of vintage barware who remember when every home had a Tom and Jerry set waiting for Christmas visitors. These forgotten Christmas foods tell stories of immigration, adaptation, resourcefulness, and changing times. Each dish represents not just flavors, but traditions, family bonds, and cultural heritage that shaped American celebrations. While some deserve to remain forgotten, others merit revival, offering connections to our culinary past and the people who came before us. Which traditions will you bring back to your table this Christmas? If you enjoyed this journey through forgotten Christmas traditions, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic trips down memory lane.